Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. My name is Dawn. So glad you're joining in, whether it's on Spotify, iTunes, iHeart, Amazon, or YouTube. Love having you here. Thank you so much. I would love it if you could give a review, if you could give a follow, a subscribe, or a download. Would be super, super appreciative for all of that feedback. And I want to let you know we're in week number 45. 45 of 52 weeks of self exploration in these exercises, these personal growth exercises that myself and my co host friend Dixie are undertaking. And then what we do is bring them to you. We give you our experiences, our feedback, the things that worked, the things that didn't work, and the things that triggered us, the things that we really loved, so that you, the viewer and the listener, can then go, that resonates with me. I think I need something like that. Or, oh, wow, I never heard of that. I think I want to try that. All in an effort to evolve our souls and to dive deeper into what our passion, our purpose, and our soul's goals are for ourselves in the world that we live in. So, without further ado, week number 45. Here we go. This one's called You're Doing Better Than You Think. And hey, I think everybody needs to hear that. So, I'm going to say it again. You're doing better than you think. I see you. I hear you. You're on it 100%. If you are doing the best that you can do in this moment, that is enough. You're doing better than you think. But specifically for today's episode, I want to focus on the parents in the crowd. I'm looking in the mirror right now. I'm a parent in the crowd. I think I need to hear part of this feedback as well today. From the terms of being a parent, man, if you're a parent, I don't need to tell you, it's a hard, hard job. It's extremely rewarding, but it's also extremely demanding. And it also creates an intense amount of self doubt inside us going, am I doing enough? Are my kids okay? What if I do the wrong thing? All of the things that we go through in our mind. So, this week's challenge, or as I like to call it, opportunity, this exercise for self growth, is a really pleasant one for us to give a compliment to a parent that we see in public. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's somebody that we have seen along the way, or maybe it's just a random situation that we run into that we happen to lay eyes on and see. 3 separate times this week, as a minimum, give a parent a compliment. Let them know you see them. Let them know they're doing a great job. Let them know why you see them and why they're doing a great job. Give them that feedback. 3 different times for me, I actually ran into an old friend I haven't seen in probably about 4 months in Target last week, which was really cool. And so we caught up a little bit, and she got honest with me about some of the things that she's in the middle of. She has a first grader and a 3 year old and a 6 month old. Lots going on in that household. So it was really great to have just this quick little 3 minute conversation because let's face it, you got 3 little ones under the age of 6. You don't have a lot of time to chat in Target without melee and bedlam happening. It happened with me when my kids were that age. I totally understand. Another opportunity I had was actually talking to one of my good girlfriends whose daughter is going off to college, and it's their oldest that's going to college. So I felt kind of like a veteran giving some empathy because my oldest has already been through college. However, the caboose of our family is getting ready to head out next week. So that's a whole other ballgame. We resonated with one another in a really great way. And we commiserated as parents about the hard things about this stage of life. And my third experience was random because I was at the airport and sitting there waiting for my plane to board. There's a darling family behind me with a 2 year old little boy, and he's jumping all over. He's hopping, he's hitting, he's kicking, he's doing all the things. Just being a boy, just being a 2 year old, but very active. If you've had a 2 year old, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. And he was nonstop talking. And the dad, without missing a beat, was engaging him without over engaging him. So it was giving him attention, but was also being being present, but in a really powerful way by not overdoing it. That helicoptering, he wasn't doing that. He was letting him be a kid, but he was also responding to him and giving him feedback and having a dialogue. It's so funny because the 2-year-old said, I want that to drink. He was pointing at his dad's coffee. And this was probably about the 10th thing that he was saying he wanted. And the dad, without missing a beat, said, You're 2 years old. You can't have coffee. I'm sorry. And then it delved into a really funny conversation about why the 2-year-old couldn't have coffee. And he went on to ask his 2-year-old questions. The dad got very simplistic with him in a really pure and beautiful way. So it was really great to hear. It made me smile. And I turned around and I tapped that dad on the shoulder and I was like, dude, that was the best interaction I think I've seen or heard in probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. I said, thank you for that. Cause it was nice. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining for me, but it was also validating for me as a parent to go, Ooh, I I went through that. I went through those numerous questions. I went through the jumping around. How did we get through that? I don't know how we got through it, but letting other people know again, like last week's episode about validation, that we see them, we hear them, and especially parents when they seem to be in a space that's difficult or challenging is extremely important and very rewarding. Because let's talk about parenting for a minute and why it's so hard. Right? There's a constant mental load for us parents. I don't care if your child is a day old or if your child is 50 years old. It's a constant mental load. Parents are always thinking, we're always analyzing, we are always concerned about emotions, about schedules, about safety, whether that's emotional safety, whether that's physical safety. Oh gosh, the list just never ends. But it's like keeping 15 computer tabs open in our brain at all times. It's hard. That's hard. And exhaustion. We're physically and emotionally exhausted, usually because of lack of sleep, specifically when the kids are little, or if there's multiple littles at your house too. It can feel like you have no alone time. It can feel nonstop. And then when the page finally turns and you have time, then you go, what do I do with my time? You ever heard that old adage, the days are long, but the years fly by? It couldn't be more true. So when you're in the thick of it, those 12 to 15-hour days of dealing with that baby, that toddler, whew, it feels like 5 weeks. I know this because I've experienced it. I'm telling you, I know it. I've walked that path. I've been in those shoes. And then one day, you're sending your kids off to college and they don't need you as much as they needed you in those 12 to 15-hour days where the days seemed unending. And then you're dealing with a whole other set of physical, emotional, and mental well being. But I want to let you know, especially for parents that are exhausted, whether it's emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted, mentally exhausted, everything in between, you can be exhausted and still be grateful for the space you're in and for the experience you're having. Both of those things can exist simultaneously. You can be grateful and exhausted at the same time. Amen. Hallelujah. I'm letting you know it's true. Another thing that's hard about parenting is that, like I said earlier, we fear that we aren't doing enough. We fear that we're doing the wrong thing. We fear that we're failing. And that fear of doing the wrong thing can be so paralyzing for so many of us. Another thing is financial and time pressure. Like so many of us parents are juggling multiple jobs, multiple activities just to keep raising our kids, to give them what they need from a financial standpoint, from a time standpoint. It can be all consuming. And again, this goes back to I don't care if your child is 1 day old, if your child's 50 years old, there's always a consumption tab. I'm going to call it the consumption tab that's open in our brain as a parent that continually is doing an analyzation. It's about surviving that for a lot of us, depending upon the period of time that we're in as a parent. And of course, there are times when it's not quite as overwhelming as others. And in those non overwhelming times, I'm just inviting you to take a moment, sit down, and breathe it in. Whew, and feel grateful for the space. But also just know that the overwhelming time is survivable. It's totally survivable. We also fear as parents, a lot of us, and I see you because this is me, judgment from other people about what it is that we're doing as a parent, how we're raising our kids. There's this pressure to be the perfect parent, to have it all together, to have our ducks in a row, and to make sure that everything is lined up prophetically and perfectionally. Perfectionally, that's a word? Perfectionally? Yeah. It's to try to line everything up as precise as we can and make it look like we got it all together in this beautiful box with this wonderful bow on top. And that pressure is impossible to meet. Listen again, that pressure is impossible. You'll never be able to meet that pressure. And it's exhausting to carry that load. It's extremely exhausting to feel that there is this ability to meet that pressure because we never will be able to cross everything off of our to-do list. I guarantee you there's always going to be another tab that's open. There's always going to be another uh, T to cross, I to dot. There's always going to be something more. Being perfect is an illusion. I'm laughing because there for a long period of time, I just felt like if everything was done in this way and in this order, and I could get it all taken care of, that everything's going to be great. I'm going to feel this sense of peace, this sense of this sense of calm. And I'm letting you know that 22 years in of parenting, yeah, I feel those moments of peace, but it's moments that I have to choose to disconnect from the pressure component. Again, this year has been a lot about choosing to do exercises, choosing to work on ourselves, choosing to make ourselves the best possible versions that we can be so we can contribute to our communities. And that work starts by internally focusing and doing that deep dive work a lot of times that many times we've put off because it's really hard to do. So, letting you know, it's not really possible to be perfect. Specifically as parents, it's a really hard job. And if you can lay down the brick of perfectionism, then you can breathe maybe 1% better. And that's all we ever are wanting. Give me 1% better because 1% better moves the needle in that different direction. Another thing that parents can struggle with is lack of support. And this is a biggie. Our communities as parents, most of us are doing it alone. And or if you're not doing it alone, you may feel like you're doing it alone, whether it's physically, emotionally, or even mentally, without a village of some sort, without a cohort, without an ally. The weight can be even heavier. The expectations and the pressure, that perfectionism can be even more. Guys, it's not meant to be a one person job. So if you are a single parent, look for an ally, invest in someone that can help you when you need a micro break, even if it's just for a second, even if it's just for 5 minutes, even if it's for an hour, a day, whatever that looks like in your world. Again, it's not meant to be a one person job, but it often feels like that. We also got to remember that our kids are human too, and they are unpredictable. That goes without saying. And they don't come with a manual. I always laugh and I tell my kids, when they say that's not true, this is when they were little. I would try to fib with them and say, well, in the manual that I got when I left the hospital on page 465, section 2, paragraph S, it says that as parents, we have to do X, Y, and Z when our kids act this way. Like, finally, my kids got to an age where they were like, I'm not buying that. That's not real. You didn't get a manual at the hospital when you brought us home. They're unpredictable. They don't come with manuals. But even as much as we love them and care for them and invest in them, Some days are just hard. Some days are just hard. And still, parents, we show up. You show up even when the days are hard. And I'm going to let you know, I want to pat you on the back, reaching out, patting you on the back, because it's important that you know you're seen, you're heard, you matter, and you're doing a great job by investing in your children, by doing the best you can in this very moment, by showing up as well as you can and contributing to those kids' lives in that way. You're doing the best you can, and that is enough. That's enough. So let's talk a little bit about why it's important to acknowledge parents. Well, it's everything that I said. It benefits people because when we hear the good, a lot of times it gives us just enough to get through what we may be in the middle of that other people don't know. And this is a foregone conclusion we've talked about numerous times on the podcast through this year. We really don't know what other people are experiencing in their lives because when we're running into somebody randomly out in public, you have no idea what they just walked out of. You have no idea what they're getting ready to walk into or what they've been walking through and for how long. So here's why letting parents know that they're doing a good job is important and why it really matters. It matters because parenting it's basically invisible. It's an invisible job. It's a lot of the things that us as parents do go unseen. Um, the roles that we have are just foregone conclusions that they're hidden. They're hidden, constant decision making, constant emotional laboring. When you give someone that compliment, it can bring light to those hidden pieces. It can actually open up a space where they don't have to unload their stuff, but it can light just a little bit of a candle. And, when there's just a little bit of light, that's consistent with change. That's consistent with progress. That's consistent with shift. So even just a little bit of a light in someone's day can create a ripple effect to help them get through what they may be experiencing, that invisible job, that invisible work of behind the scenes parenting that we all experience as parents. It says, I see you. It says, I see you. It also counters interior self doubt because even the most loving, committed parents, like I said earlier, wonder, am I doing enough? A genuine compliment can really actually silence that inner critic, even for just a second, just for a moment. That's all we're looking for. It says that you're doing better than you think you are. And it also offers emotional relief. I mean, because parenting, let's face it, is exhausting and it can be extremely isolating. We may feel in the middle of the night when our child is sick that no one else is in these shoes. No one else is experiencing what we are. And there is a point of truth to that because we are all individuals, but the collective whole of parenting is an understanding that we are all in it in this invisible job that has these behind the scenes things happening nonstop as parents. So, when you invest in a parent by giving them a kind word, it can be a serious breath of fresh air to where they may be at that moment and validating that they're not alone, right? That they're making strides and their efforts are mattering in this thing called parenthood. It lets them know you're not failing. You are succeeding. You're doing everything you can do to make it the best possible scenario for your kids as you can. It also builds connection and compassion. Ding, ding, ding. That's the key word for the year, building connection. Complimenting a parent builds bridges, whether that's a friend, whether that's our sibling, a coworker, a random stranger. It actually fosters empathy. So we talked last week about being mirrors for everyone's experience. So when we see someone having a reaction, we know that there's a mirror that we have that's giving them the same thing back that we're getting back. So when we offer that to someone, it's offering a respect for what they're doing and it's offering a sense of empathy and it gives back to us as well. And encouragement fuels growth. It fuels growth. When someone feels seen and supported, they're more likely to show up with love, with patience, and with strength. Amen. Ooh, that compliment that you give them, whether it's simple one liner, it can help them show up better for their kids. That's a mic drop moment for me. When I was thinking about this, I'm like, wow, what really mattered to me when someone gave me that compliment that I needed when my kids were throwing fits at the grocery store while one of them was recovering from the croup. And I couldn't leave her at home because my husband had to work and I didn't have a babysitter. And my other daughter is screaming and jumping up and down and wanting something from the checkout line. And she's tired and needs a nap. And I just need to get everybody stable and safe and home. When someone gave me just a really endearing, simple sentence, simple glance with a smile and a knowingness and a grab of my hand and a "you're doing a great job" comment. Boy, I'm going to tell you, I showed up better for my kids when we got in the car. I took a deep breath. I felt a little bit more patient. I felt a little bit more empathy for my kids and what they may be feeling. And that let the pressure off of me as a parent. It helped me to keep going. And you know what? It costs nothing. It costs us nothing to give a compliment. It costs us nothing to say, "You're doing a great job." The impact, it's huge. The impact far outweighs any kind of awkwardness, any kind of hold back that we may have for reaching out and telling someone that I see you. As a parent, I honor that and I acknowledge what you're doing, and you're doing a great job. Right? It's a huge piece that can have ripple effects. That's what we talk about, really being connected to other people where we can contribute in a way that's positive so that the ripple effect can take off, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to grow, we're here to evolve, we're here to really deep dive into what our soul is telling us is our passion to drive that bus forward. But we got to show up for ourselves. And part of that is also demonstrating that same strength and that same integrity to other people. So, my friends, if you would take it this week upon yourself, you see a parent, give them a pat on the back, tell them they're doing a great job. And especially, maybe if they're struggling, let them know you see them. Let them know they matter and let them know that the job they're doing isn't invisible, right? That there's a knowingness that you see what it is that they're contributing to. They're raising human beings. Boy, that's a huge job that no one should take lightly. Gosh. Right. And until next time, guys, we all have a story and all of our stories matter. So please, let's go out, make our stories count.